A group of engineers received the job offer in early 2015. The pay is extraordinary, $5 million for the team. But the client won't say what they're building, just coordinates. A location 1 kilometer from Altiplano Maximum Security Prison. The engineers arrive, realize what they're being asked to do. Dig a tunnel, 1.5 kilometers long, straight to a specific cell. The cell holding Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. El Chapo, the man who built a billion-dollar drug empire, who escaped prison once before, who supplies most of America's cocaine and heroin, the world's most wanted criminal. They could refuse, but $5 million is $5 million, and refusing El Chapo doesn't end well. So they start digging. The challenges are insane. They need his exact cell location. The water table is high. One miscalculation floods everything. One wrong turn misses the target entirely. They solve each problem. GPS watch smuggled in. Engineers trained in Germany. Wooden reinforcements, ventilation, lighting. A motorcycle on rails to haul dirt. Month after month. Digging in secret. Building the impossible. July 11th, 2015. Their masterpiece works. El Chapo walks into his shower and disappears. This is how you break the unbreakable. To understand why someone would spend $5 million digging a tunnel, you need to understand who Joaquin Guzman really is. Born April 4th, 1957 in La Tuna, a village in Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains. Poverty defines everything. His father beats him. The family grows marijuana and poppies to survive. Boys here don't dream of becoming doctors or teachers. Drug trafficking is the only path to money. Money is the only path out. Joaquin is short, just 1.67 meters tall, stocky build. Kids nickname him El Chapo, Shorty. He drops out before finishing elementary school, works the poppy fields. But he's ambitious, ruthless, smart. Late 1970s, El Chapo starts working for Hector Luis Palma Salazar, a rising drug lord. He maps routes to move drugs through Sinaloa into the United States. He's good at logistics, better at violence. By the 1980s, he joins Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo's Guadalajara cartel, becomes a problem solver. When shipments miss schedules, El Chapo eliminates the person responsible. No excuses, no second chances. His uncompromising brutality earns trust. When Felix Gallardo gets arrested in 1989, El Chapo doesn't panic. He keeps the business running, forms his own organization with other traffickers, the Sinaloa Cartel. He innovates, builds tunnels under the US-Mexico border to smuggle cocaine, organizes planes, trucks, rail cars, creates distribution networks across America. By the early 1990s, he's a major player, but not yet famous. That changes on May 24, 1993, Guadalajara International Airport. Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo arrives to meet a Vatican ambassador. The cardinal is popular, advocates for the poor, publicly condemns drug trafficking. At the same time, El Chapo and his bodyguards pull into the parking lot, planning to fly to Puerto Vallarta Beach Resort. Gunfire erupts. When the shooting stops, 7 people are dead. Among them, the cardinal, shot 14 times at close range. The official story, Tijuana cartel gunmen tried to assassinate El Chapo. They mistook the cardinal's white Grand Marquis for El Chapo's identical car. Wrong place, wrong time. But the story doesn't add up. The cardinal wore full clerical robes. How could professional hitmen confuse a 67-year-old archbishop with a 36-year-old drug lord at close range? Forensic experts later say the killing appears deliberate. Someone opened the cardinal's trunk after the shooting, stole documents. Documents allegedly linking government officials to cartels and trafficking rings. Years later, the cardinal's successor claims it was a state crime, that the government ordered the hit because Posadas knew too much. El Chapo insists he was the target, not the cardinal, that he was picking up luggage when crossfire broke out. The truth remains a mystery, but the consequence is clear. El Chapo becomes Mexico's most wanted man. International headlines, massive manhunt. June 9th, 1993. captured in Guatemala, hiding under the alias Jose Luis Ramirez. Extradited to Mexico, acquitted of the Cardinal's murder, convicted of drug trafficking and weapons possession, sentenced to over 20 years in Puente Grande maximum security prison. The empire should be over. It's not even close. Puente Grande Prison, 1995. El Chapo arrives expecting punishment. He finds opportunity. Within months, he controls the entire facility. Guards on his payroll, prison staff taking bribes. Even the warden answers to him. He doesn't serve time. He runs his empire from behind bars. Orders pass through lawyers to lieutenants outside. The Sinaloa Cartel continues operating without interruption. Inside, El Chapo lives comfortably, orders meals from a menu, receives prostitute visits, uses cell phones freely. The prison becomes his office. But in late 2000, a problem develops. Mexico's Supreme Court approves a new law making extradition to the United States easier. El Chapo could be sent to an American supermax prison. No bribes work there, no comfortable setup, just concrete and isolation for life. Time to leave. January 19th, 2001. The official escape story is almost comical. A bribed guard helps El Chapo climb into a laundry cart. The guard pushes the cart through hallways, past checkpoints, to the parking lot. El Chapo jumps out, climbs into a car trunk. The guard drives to the outer gate. Security waves the car through after a quick search. Nobody checks the trunk. But journalists investigating the escape find major problems with this version. Puente Grande had heat and motion sensors at every checkpoint. The system could detect any living creature, even a cat. Alarms should have triggered immediately. The more likely story: El Chapo walked out dressed in a police uniform, escorted by corrupt officers. Cost: reportedly $2.5 million in bribes. The subsequent investigation confirms systemic corruption. Dozens of prison employees arrested, including Warden Francisco Camberos Rivera, known as El Chito. El Chapo is free, and he learns critical lessons. Lesson 1: corruption works. Money buys freedom. Lesson 2: simple plans succeed. Lesson 3: always have an escape plan. These lessons will matter 14 years later. For now, El Chapo disappears, returns to Sinaloa, rebuilds his empire. The timing is perfect. Between 2002 and 2003, leaders of both the Tijuana Cartel and Gulf Cartel are killed or arrested. Power vacuums open. El Chapo pushes into their territories. Violence explodes along the US-Mexico border. Former Mexican army soldiers join El Chapo's forces. Nuevo Laredo becomes a war zone. Over 1,000 people die in the early fighting. Many are civilians. 2006, President Felipe Calderón takes office, declares war on the cartels, deploys the military. The violence escalates. Between 2007 and 2014, over 160,000 people die in Mexico's drug war. Through this bloodshed, El Chapo rises higher. The Sinaloa Cartel becomes the world's most powerful drug trafficking organization, operating in 50 countries, generating billions annually, supplying most cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl to the United States. El Chapo's personal fortune exceeds $1 billion. Forbes names him one of the world's billionaires. He's not just a criminal, he's a global enterprise. But the United States Drug Enforcement Administration is hunting him. Andrew Hogan is a DEA agent with a mission: capture the most powerful drug trafficker in history. He starts researching, discovers something shocking. There's no task force hunting El Chapo, not even a single federal agent assigned to the case. The world's most wanted criminal, and nobody is actively pursuing him. Hogan decides to change that. He takes Spanish classes, prepares to move his family to Mexico City. Meanwhile, a colleague gets a breakthrough. Someone in El Chapo's inner circle provides the PIN to his BlackBerry. The DEA tracks the signal to Cabo San Lucas, a holiday resort. Hogan passes the information to Mexican authorities. They rush to the location. Too late. El Chapo is gone. Next attempt. The DEA narrows El Chapo's phone signal to one of 3 mansions near Cabo San Lucas. Mexican police storm the property. El Chapo escapes through the back door, reaches an airstrip, flies to safety. He's always one step ahead, outsmarts every attempt. May 2012. Hogan moves to Mexico City with his family, takes over the Sinaloa case personally. He begins intercepting members of El Chapo's inner circle, slowly mapping the cartel's communication network, learning patterns, understanding how often numbers change, identifying possible code names. Bit by bit, a picture emerges. January 2014. El Chapo sends a chauffeur to pick up an underling in Culiacan. Hogan tracks the phone. The signal leads to a cluster of 5 houses. Hogan organizes a massive operation. Dozens of Mexican Marines, helicopters, armored trucks. He joins the mission himself. The forces surround the property, storm inside. El Chapo is gone. But this time, the Marines find something important. A bathtub placed oddly in the house, covering the entrance to a tunnel leading into Culiacan's sewers. The Marines stay on his trail. 3 days later, intelligence shows one of El Chapo's men drove him to Mazatlan, a coastal town, to a hotel. February 22, 2014. The Marines enter the hotel. 4th floor, room 401. They storm the bedroom. El Chapo is with his wife and daughters. He barricades himself in the bathroom with an assault rifle. His wife pleads with the soldiers not to harm their children. Moments later, El Chapo surrenders. The world's most wanted man is captured. Andrew Hogan's job is done, but he worries for his family's safety. They've been living in Mexico while he hunted a cartel boss. Time to leave. Hogan and his family board a plane back to the United States. El Chapo goes to Altiplano Maximum Security Prison, the most secure facility in Mexico. Tall mesh fences, watchtowers scanning every angle, no fly zone. The United States immediately begins pushing for extradition. El Chapo knows what that means. Life in an American supermax with no chance of escape. And this time, a laundry cart won't work. This time, he needs engineers. Early 2015, El Chapo's wife, Emma Coronel Aispuro, begins coordinating with his sons and closest associates. First, they acquire an old property. Location? Exactly 1 kilometer from Altiplano prison. Next, they buy a warehouse nearby, store weapons inside, an armored pickup truck, tools. Then they hire workers, engineers, construction experts, people who know how to dig deep and build structures that won't collapse. The job? Dig a tunnel from the property to El Chapo's cell. But the first problem is obvious. They don't know where his cell is. Altiplano is massive, hundreds of cells. One wrong calculation and they dig to the wrong location. Months of work wasted. El Chapo stays trapped. Solution? Smuggle a GPS watch into the prison, disguised as food. El Chapo receives it, wears it long enough to pinpoint his exact coordinates. The watch transmits the location. Now the engineers know the target. Second problem, technical expertise. Digging a tunnel 1.5 kilometers long under a maximum security prison is not simple construction work. The water table beneath Altiplano sits dangerously high. The team needs specialized training. El Chapo's people fly engineers to Germany for 3 months. There, they learn advanced tunneling techniques, how to deal with high water tables, how to reinforce structures underground. The engineers return. Work begins. The tunnel must be 1.5 kilometers long to reach from the property to the cell. It needs to be 1.7 meters high so a person can move through it. Installs lighting the entire length so workers can see. Adds a ventilation system because without air circulation, workers would suffocate. But there's another problem. Digging a tunnel this long produces massive amounts of dirt. tons of soil that needs to be removed without anyone noticing. Solution? Build a rail system. Adapt a motorcycle to run on the rails. Workers dig. Load dirt onto carts attached to the motorcycle. Haul it back to the entrance. Dump it. Repeat. The motorcycle will serve a second purpose later. It becomes El Chapo's escape vehicle. Month 1. The tunnel extends 100 meters. Month 2. 300 meters. The noise is constant. Drilling, hammering, digging. Inmates in Altiplano start complaining. They hear banging through the walls, strange sounds beneath the floors. They report it to guards. The guards ignore every complaint. Likely explanation? Bribes. El Chapo's team paying off prison staff to look the other way. The same corruption strategy that worked in 2001. Month after month, the digging continues. By mid-2015, the tunnel stretches the full 1.5 kilometers. Reinforced, lit, ventilated, a functional underground passage. But they're not done yet. The tunnel reaches the area beneath El Chapo's cell. Now, they need to dig up. Create a vertical shaft 10 meters straight up. Install a ladder. Break through the cell floor, the most dangerous part. If they miscalculate by even a few meters, they break through into the wrong cell, or into a hallway. Guards discover everything. They build the vertical shaft carefully, 10 meters up, install a sturdy ladder. The exit point? El Chapo's shower area, the one blind spot where surveillance cameras can't see clearly. All that's left is breaking through the final barrier, the floor of the shower. July 11th, 2015. El Chapo sits on his bed. The surveillance camera records everything. The television plays loudly, volume turned up to maximum. El Chapo paces, walks to the shower area, bends down, looks at the opening, returns to his bed. He removes his shoes, sits for a moment. Then he stands, walks behind the shower wall. He disappears from view. Below the floor, a hole 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters waits, barely wide enough to squeeze through. El Chapo drops down. His feet find the ladder. He climbs down 10 meters into the tunnel. Someone is already waiting, likely his wife's brother. Together, they ride through the tunnel. 20 minutes later, they reach the other end. A small ladder leads up through an exit shaft. They climb, emerge inside an unfinished house covered with construction materials. An ATV is parked outside, ready. They drive a short distance to the warehouse, switch to an SUV, drive for 2 hours. Arrive at an airstrip in the middle of nowhere. A plane is already waiting, engine running. They board. The plane takes off. Destination? Sinaloa. El Chapo is free. Back at Altiplano, the guards are watching their screens. They saw him disappear behind the shower wall, but they wait. 20 minutes pass before they finally check the cell. They wait several more minutes before entering. When they do, they find the hole in the shower floor, the ladder descending into darkness, the tunnel stretching into the distance. The most elaborate prison escape in Mexican history. Two months after the escape, one of El Chapo's sons posts a tweet. "I'm doing fine here. You already know with whom." Attached, a photo, presumably with his father, location tagged Costa Rica. But back in Mexico, the government faces fury. How did this happen? How did someone dig a 1.5 kilometer tunnel directly to a prisoner's cell without anyone noticing? The official response is swift. The prison's warden is fired. 2 other officials dismissed. Then, criminal charges. 4 Mexican officials arrested. 2 are members of Mexico's Secret Service, based at the prison. 2 are guards who sat in the control room monitoring El Chapo's cell the night he escaped. The accusation? They deliberately delayed raising the alarm. But the public isn't satisfied. A large majority of Mexicans believe the escape was an inside job, involving far more people than 4 officials. How could workers dig for months without detection? How could a GPS watch be smuggled in? How could guards ignore constant inmate complaints about drilling sounds? The corruption runs deeper than anyone wants to admit. El Chapo is now one of the most wanted criminals on Earth. Again. The pressure to capture him is higher than ever. The embarrassment is too great. Mexican authorities and the DEA launch a renewed manhunt. Then, El Chapo makes a bizarre decision. He knows he's a legend in Mexico, folk hero to some, villain to others, but famous either way. He wants more, a movie about his life on the big screen. Sean Penn, the Hollywood actor, is already involved in a production about him, along with Mexican actress Kate Del Castillo. Del Castillo manages to contact El Chapo's associates. After negotiations, El Chapo agrees to meet her and Sean Penn in person. October 2015. While technically on the run from authorities worldwide, El Chapo sits down for an interview about his career as a drug lord. A photo is taken of the meeting. Sean Penn asks questions. El Chapo answers. The interview is later published in Rolling Stone magazine. Penn writes about El Chapo's smile, his doubtless expression, the power in his eyes. Penn reveals that the tunnel engineers were flown to Germany for 3 months of training to deal with the low-lying water table beneath the prison. But according to government sources, the interview is a critical mistake. Authorities have been monitoring Sean Penn and Kate Del Castillo's movements very closely. The meeting gives them a fresh lead on El Chapo's location. October 9th, 2015. Mexican special forces close in on him in the mountains of Sinaloa. They spot him with just one bodyguard. The chase begins. Through rough terrain, El Chapo running, the forces pursuing. Then, El Chapo falls off a cliff. His bodyguard finds him, carries him deeper into the forest. The special forces lose sight of them in the dense vegetation. A catastrophic failure. They had him. He slipped away. But the authorities don't give up. January 2016. The Mexican Marines get another chance. They manage to locate El Chapo in Los Mochis, a coastal city in Sinaloa. The clue? A taco order placed from a white van. Witnesses identify the driver as one of El Chapo's men. The Marines begin surveillance. The van leads them to a safe house. They wait, gather intelligence, plan the raid. A few hours later, they're ready. The Marines storm the safe house. Cartel gunmen try to hold them off. A fierce gunfight breaks out. Bullets tear through walls. The Marines push forward. Second floor, then the roof. But when they clear the building, El Chapo is gone. True to form, he fled through a hidden tunnel. Right now, he and one of his gunmen are climbing out of a drainage tunnel a short distance away, right across from a Walmart. El Chapo and his associate need to escape quickly. They approach a parked car, guns drawn, force the driver out, steal the vehicle. This is it, the final escape. Just drive away, disappear again, regroup. They speed through a few blocks. Then, the car breaks down. Just stops. Engine failure. In the middle of their escape. They lose precious minutes. Ditch the car. Take over another vehicle at gunpoint. Finally get on the highway. But it's too late. The delay costs them everything. Police catch up, surround the car, force it to stop. January 8th, 2016. El Chapo is arrested. One of history's most powerful drug lords finally captured. He tells the officers, "You are all going to die. 40 of my assassins are on their way to free me." The threat is real, but he's handed over to the Marines immediately, moved to a secure location. It's over. The trial takes place in Brooklyn Federal Court. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence. His drug empire supplied the majority of hard drugs entering the United States. He's responsible for the deaths of over 34,000 people. He ordered murders, ran a brutal organization, generated billions in illegal profits. February 2019. The jury finds him guilty on all 10 federal charges. July 17th, 2019. The sentence? Life in prison plus 30 years. Ordered to pay $12.6 billion in forfeiture. El Chapo is sent to ADX Florence in Colorado. the United States' most secure supermax prison. He spends 23 hours a day in a concrete cell, 1 hour of exercise alone in a concrete yard. No contact with other inmates, no windows, no chance of bribery. No tunnel can reach him here. The man who escaped twice will die in prison. But the Sinaloa Cartel continues, as strong as ever. His sons took over operations. Mexican cartels operate as undeterred global organizations. The violence continues. Over 160,000 people died during Mexico's drug war. The tunnels, the corruption, the escapes, none of it stopped the bloodshed. El Chapo's story ends in a concrete box in Colorado. But the engineers who built his masterpiece? They vanished. Likely paid well. Likely still free. Their tunnel remains one of the most sophisticated prison escapes in history. A $5 million engineering marvel that worked perfectly. Until a car broke down.